We're here with Erica, who's joining us from South Africa. Erica, welcome and thank you. So I'd love it if you could introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about your experience with the Big Split so far.
Thanks. It's only a pleasure. It's always good to have a conversation with you, especially if it's around finance and money. By way of introduction, I'm a designer, specialize in designing rugs. So high-end, bespoke, one-of-a-kind patterns and carpets for interior designers all the way around the world. It's a fun, creative job. Basically, it's to get a piece of art woven and put on the floor. I choose to stay freelance, mostly because I want the flexibility. I'm a working mom, so I have 2 young boys who keep me very busy, but give my life purpose. In other things, I'm a passionate gardener, an avid reader. I love poetry and have a bit of a thing for flowers.
Excellent. Well, thank you. I appreciate the beautiful intro. And what I'd love to do is just get right into things. Did you learn anything around personal finance, around money, or was it like most people? Tell us a little bit about that.
I didn't get a whole lot of educational anything when it came to money. I was never taught to, work with my money, or I had no skills about budgeting. You go to art school, university, and they don't even teach you how to run a business, but you're expected to let out into the world, and you're expected to just know how to do that. So, I felt like I was at a really big disadvantage. When it comes to being a freelancer, I had this idea that if I needed money, I would just get a job and earn it. And then I became a mom, and that became very conflicting because you can't always do that. So you're pulled in both directions. And I always had this idea, if there's a big problem, I just use my credit card. But that did push me right up against a wall and put a lot of pressure on me. So, and then I didn't have the education or the training to figure out, how to get yourself out of that situation. So definitely deficient in that department.
Did you have a way of regularly managing money, or how did you deal with your finances?
No. So as a result of this restriction in childhood, I think it, as an adult, then sort of manifested itself as this invasive behavior. So money was coming in, and I was earning it and covering what I needed to cover. But I kind of just was totally disconnected from money. It was, I had the safety net of a credit card, which was fine. And that obviously, I lent on that more and more and more. But when it came to money, I was completely avoiding it. If somebody asked me directly, I would actually get embarrassed and not know how to answer them. And mostly there was a sense of shame about it too, because I felt like, well, I am a grown up and I should be able to do this. I should be able to manage my money. And then you kind of start internalizing that, and it all just got worse and worse and worse and worse and worse.
Yeah. Okay. First off, thank you for being vulnerable and sharing that. I do think it can be quite helpful for other people watching who can relate to that. And I would argue that most people on the planet can relate to that. Having said that, that kind of sets the tone for us, which is beautiful. So thank you. What I'd love to do now is discuss the Big Split. So to start off, how would you describe the Big Split?
I think it's the simplest way of bringing about awareness to your financial situation. So I think for me personally, I did not want to engage with my money. I did not know how to even look at my financial situation objectively. And the Big Split is a very gentle but powerful way of doing exactly that, of engaging in your situation and accepting it for what it is.
I love that description, and I just love how simple it is. And here at the Big Split, we're all about simplicity, so thank you for that. Now, let's get into it a little bit more. You're a freelancer and a creative. I am as well. And I noticed some common issues around being a freelancer, especially around inconsistent income, but also going long stretches without getting paid and how that affected my creativity, meaning I didn't have any creativity when I was scared shitless that I couldn't pay my bills. So I'm curious, how has this shown up for you? How has the big split shown up for you as a freelancer and around creativity in general?
Yeah, it was really interesting and quite surprising because one of the biggest factors about implementing the big split is figuring out how you position yourself inside your life and actually self-value. So how you like your self-worth. And there's this inextricable link between self-worth and income. And that is even more obvious if you're a creative. And perhaps even like the third whammy behind that is if you're a mother, because what we all tend to do is like kind of take the back seats, like when it comes to creativity, when it comes to our self-worth, when it comes to taking care of everyone else. And then what's left over is actually very little. So I think what the big split did for me was give me a very simple solution that enabled me to kind of get through the kind of high times, the nice earning times, and then come out of them on the other side without panicking. So because I had a little safety net of money, it allowed me to kind of like cruise through those famine times with a little bit more ease and not feel like, oh my gosh, I can't pay for what needs to be paid for, which was massive for my own creative well-being, because what I started to do in those times was actually get creative for my own benefit. So not for a client, but start kind of playing with the projects I've always wanted to. And if you are a creative, then you'll understand that there are always projects you want to kind of like get involved in. But the argument is always like, oh, I don't have enough money, I've got to go make some money. But when you implement the big split, then you actually have like, you're thinking in orchestrating and designing, you're actually designing your life in a completely different way, which allows you this freedom, which in turn becomes a far more liberated way of living and creating and mothering.
Being a mother, obviously, time is very important to you and how you spend it. So what is the big split like in terms of timing for you?
Well, working moms have about like zero time. So like their time is actually one of the biggest assets for me personally. My time is my life. So and I want to be able to spend it with my boys. So when I first heard about the big split, I was kind of a bit reluctant because I was like, oh no, I don't have time to do this. I honestly, where must I find the time to now go and do a money course or learn about my finances? But that was the beauty of it. It is the big split is so simple and so fast and so effective that I actually, in a way, didn't really believe it could be so effective. At one stage, so I was splitting my money and money was coming in and I had set everything up and things started to go really, really, really well. And it was like, wow. And I remember looking at my bank balance and I was splitting and I was paying debt off and it was all kind of flowing so nicely. And the skeptic in me was actually so skeptical that something so simple could work that I actually stopped splitting my money to see if it really was that. So I actually tested it, so to speak.
Yeah.
And then for a while, because the big split method is so effective, it actually carried me through it. And I was like, no, you see, it doesn't work. And then the chaos kind of crept back in and I wasn't managing and suddenly I wasn't paying off debt. Like I kind of stopped that and everything just snowballed from there. It was awful. And then I was like, okay, so perhaps that one very simple step is worth doing every single time. And I went back to splitting and very quickly everything resolved itself again.
Yeah.
So it has been tested.
That's really good to know. I love that you kind of put it through its paces. I've had a decent amount of people come in and look at it very skeptically, thinking, "There's no way. This is too simple. There's no way this works." And then only when they try it do they realize, oh. And I think it's to me, what I've noticed is it's a sign of something deeper that's going on in society, where we live in such busy lives, and we all think that everything has to be so hectic and so intense because that's what we're used to. But in reality, it doesn't have to be any of those things. In fact, it probably shouldn't be any of those things. And it's good to know how quickly you see the effect, and then how quickly you see the negative effect if you stop. So thank you. And speaking of that, actually, towards your debt. So you mentioned that you had some debt, and I'm curious, how has the big split shown up for you around paying off debt?
I felt like I was on this hamster wheel of like, okay, groceries and utility bills and like car repayments and like everything that had to happen. And there's always something, like there's like a dentist or whatever. There's always something. So they were always prioritized before paying off the debt. So what the big split did for me was it showed me that debt was actually more of a mindset and a choice than I'd ever realized. And when I made the decision to actually start paying it back and paying it off and getting it out of my life, it changed very, very quickly. And suddenly I was paying debt off and still meeting my needs and still, keeping some for myself. And then what has been so great is once I finished paying off my debt, then I kept paying that same amount into a savings account. And as a result, then that money was mine, which is a totally different, that was a very big driving force for me. Like at the minute I understood, okay, if I pay my debt off and I keep paying this money into an account, that means that's mine. That's not a credit card company's or, the bank's, or that's not for interest. That actually just stays as my own money, which was a very big incentive for me to actually plow forward and get rid of that debt as fast as possible.
So thank you for kind of giving us an idea of what the big split has been like so far for you. So now I kind of want to get into what life has been like now that you've been splitting your money on a regular basis. So can you share 2 specific ways where the big split has shown up and improved your life?
Well, I'm a different woman, which has been quite amazing. So I definitely value myself differently to how I did before I started splitting. So that's been very powerful. And when it comes to money, I just feel so much more confident around money. I actually feel like I want to look at my financial situation and get involved. So yeah, just feeling much more calm, more liberated, more free. And I feel like I've got a little bit more choice. And the choices that I make now with far more awareness. More awareness and confidence. I think those are probably the 2 of the biggest ones. Yeah.
So looking back at where you started, coming from a place of maybe, let's call it lack or survival, hopefully that's not too harsh of a word there, but coming from that place to where you're at now, how do you feel?
I think living in survival, because it definitely is, that there are some moments where, especially as a mom, that panic is so real and so raw. And the feeling like, okay, how do you provide for these little beings can be hugely stressful. And I think this is it just takes those hard, blunt edges off and gives you the sense that you can breathe through this and that it doesn't all have to be only about surviving. I look forward to getting to the point where I'm thriving, which will be great. And I think if I stay splitting, I will get there very, very fast, faster than I ever thought. But I think it's so simple. It's so worth doing. If I could tell anybody out there anything, it would be just jump in and try it.
Now, as we wrap up, I'd love to invite you to speak directly to the mothers, the creatives, the freelancers, and the skeptics. What would you say to them about the big split?
Well, to the mothers, I would say take a little bit of time, learn about the big split. If your financial situation isn't great, or if you're living in chaos and stress, this is totally worth exploring, worth learning about, because it will change things for you and for your financial situation. To the creatives, I would say the world needs you to be creative. If you start splitting, you will find that you can coast through those lean times that have previously set you up for so much stress. And let's face it, none of us can be creative when we stress. Those two things just don't gel. For the skeptics, my favorites, I would say implement everything that needs to be implemented. Start splitting your money and see how it goes. And then you can stop. Then you can really see how it goes. And then you'll probably go back to splitting your money again. I'm pretty sure of it. So yeah, to all of them, I would say just jump in and just give it a try.
Well, thank you. That's really, really fantastic. And I love that your favorites in that group are the skeptics. So thank you. Appreciate that. And, as we wrap up, Erica, I want to thank you so much for taking the time to share, especially being vulnerable and kind of going much deeper into, the big split gives you more money. Yes, you can pay off your debt. And I say it so kind of casually, but they really are the least important things that you get from this as you go through it. The thing is, you actually have to go through it to know that. So that's why I wanted to sit with you, because I know you've experienced this. I know you've gone from being very, very skeptical to where you're at now. And it's been an amazing transformation to watch. So thank you for sharing that with everybody. And most importantly, thank you for choosing to show up for yourself day in and day out, to split your money consistently, even when you stopped and noticing. Thank you. It's been wonderful to watch you make this happen for yourself.
Yeah, well, thank you for putting this out there and making it all a possibility, and for teaching people who really need it. So thank you.
Thank you. See you soon.